Hello everyone, one of the most requested features for the Xenomorph's power is some sort of implementation of the alien life cycle, namely the Facehuggers. Many players were left disappointed when the Xenomorph came out and their life cycle aspects were notably absent from the game, besides the Easter egg on the Nostromo map. Now, realistically, this makes sense from a lore perspective, as being facehugged in the alien universe is essentially a death sentence. But the entity has been known to bend the rules of character powers before, namely hard nerfing Freddy and Vecna to fit the rules of the trials. So I've been concocting a concept that would allow for behavior to implement facehuggers in the least obtrusive way possible, meaning minimal developer effort on their part. My plan would not require the creation of new assets, nor would it require the Xenomorph's base kit to be altered in any major way. That way, if behavior likes this idea, we could hopefully see this implemented in a future patch someday. So without further ado, let's go ahead and into my seamless facehugger concept. First, I want to give an overview of my facehugger concept. I designed it in a way that takes concepts from Vecna, Sadako, and the Pig, with some Pyramid Head and Wesker stuff in there, but that's very minimal, the first two being the main inspiration here. When you load into a match against Vecna, there are 6 treasure chests that spawn across the map. Most of these will grant you items, but there is a mimic mechanic in there, which will actually serve as a fake chest that when a survivor goes to search it, will instead clamp down on the survivor instead. We're going to take this concept and apply it to the Xenomorph's control stations. As you know, Xenomorph comes with 7 control stations that spawn at the beginning of the trial, which the Xenomorph uses to get around the map and track survivors, but is also the place where survivors go to get flame turrets, the main counterplay tool against the Xenomorph. My proposition is this. There will be a mimic of sorts every batch of 4 flame turrets. This means at some point while grabbing a flame turret, a survivor will be surprised by a facehugger lying in wait. The facehugger wraps about their face, applying a 5% hindered debuff in the blindness status effect. And that's when we get to the next part of our concept. I do want to note briefly that in my final changes for Xenomorph video, I would like to see flame turret use streamlined and made much easier. This includes lowering the hindered amount for carrying them, among other quality of life changes. That way survivors will be more encouraged to use them. This would be especially necessary for these changes, but it's also just number changes, so it's not like it would be hard on behavior's end to implement these. Next, we draw inspiration from Sadako's VHS tape system. The furthest control station from your location will give you a loud noise notification and then highlight it. It is now the survivor's job to go to that furthest control station, where you'll be given a special prompt to heat the facehugger to get it to let go of your face. So at this point, you may be wondering, wow, this seems a little scot-free for something as deadly as the legendary facehugger. Well, if we look over to the HUD on the survivors, you will now see an icon notch on your character's icon, dictating that they are now infected. This will allow them to have a special mini-Mori upon deathhook, a la Pyramid Head's Torment into mini-Mori, allowing the Xenomorph to circumvent picking up the final survivor, just allowing the facehugger to do its work, and an infected survivor will have a chest burster pop out of their chest as a special different Mori. I do want to note that according to my own concept, it's technically possible to get facehugged more than once as the same survivor when you're going to retrieve a flame turret and getting the 1 in 4 random facehugger. I think in this case, we take some notes from Wesker's critical infection mechanic and a little bit from Sadako again. If a player is facehugged more than once, we can give them a special Sadako style effect where they will be downable and then Moriable if they do not make it to the removal control station in time. Unlike Sadako, I don't think it's really necessary to highlight the critically infected survivor, since the Xenomorph has a wealth of base kit information already, and will already know that the survivor was infected at least once on the HUD over on the left. So it'll be up to your macro sense as the Xenomorph player to keep on a lookout for critically infected survivors instead of being an easy and basic part of gameplay flow. Also, for every batch of 4 flame turrets, only 1 turret will have a facehugger, so the likelihood of the same survivor being hit twice is very low, and realistically is just really unlucky. This concept provides a bit of slowdown for the Xenomorph, as well as staggering out the double flame turret setups that the Xenomorph notoriously has about 0 counterplay in dealing with. This is because now, for every time somebody goes to get a flame turret, there's a possibility that a facehugger will pop out instead. Meaning if you're trying to be very aggressive and put 2 right next to each other, you can go get one, be fine, but by the time you go to get the next one, they might just get facehugged and you will have a incomplete double turret setup. This concept is not very intrusive on the survivor's end, as it cannot be manipulated by the Xenomorph to force a quick mini Mori by tunneling or hard focusing a player, something like Sadako and Pig can. The only way this can happen is if it's on a player who has been facehugged twice, But like I said, not only is it a rare instance to be facehugged twice just because of the randomness of how it's distributed, but also the Xenomorph does not have the information on the HUD that somebody is critically infected, so they can't just immediately go try to get that survivor out of the game. Honestly, it's up to the Xenomorph to use their macro sense to be able to find that person anyway, so even if they do, I feel like it's kind of like an earned situation at that point. I think, like I said, both from a mechanical and art asset direction, all of these concepts already exist in the game already. So theoretically, it would be simple as pulling these mechanics from other characters and putting them over onto the Xenomorph. The only new content that would be required from behavior's end would be the animations for the face hug, facehugger cleansing, and the new mini Moried. I will be frank with you, the Xenomorph will probably edge up into A- tier after these changes, which, considering the frustrations of bad collision in the game, double turret sets basically having zero counterplay, and the moderate skill floor of the character, I think that's more than a fine place to be. I don't even think they would realistically even crack the top 10 characters in the game with this change, which is good, because the point of this change is not to flat out buff the Xenomorph, but to implement a lore aspect core to the character and franchise into DBD's gameplay flow. I do want to note here at the end of the video that all these numbers are subject to change. These things would be realistically tested out in a PTB before they made it to live, so if you think 5% hindered is too low, we can always just raise that, or if you think it's too much, we can just lower that. If certain aspects of these are a little bit too unfair, like the double face hug situation, we can finagle that to make it to where, oh, well, it'll only affect you if you already have at least a hook or something like that. There's plenty of little tiny changes we can make to this to make it perfect. If you have suggestions like that, you can just put them down in the comments below, but don't let that dissuade you from looking at the big picture, and don't get hung up on the little numbers and tiny concepts here and there. I know there are grander ideas out there for the implementation of the facehugger system, but I wanted to make a concept that would be realistically implementable in an upcoming PTB, and not something that's sort of like a dream power or something to that extent. I know there's a lot of people that have made far better concepts when it comes to facehugger implementation in DBD, but they kind of require Xenomorph's entire base kit to be completely removed and changed into something else, which is far more dev time, whereas my concept is more like, hey, you can just kind of tack this on to Xenomorph's current kit, and it doesn't disturb things too much, and it doesn't require too much work from behavior. If you're actually interested in seeing a more fully fleshed out, in-depth facehugger implementation that would actually require a full rework, and one that I actually approve of, I had a review of a concept made by a player named Smug, who now goes by Abyssal instead, who made a what I believe to be a perfect balance of the current Xenomorph kit and implements facehuggers in a fun and interesting and unique way. It's really rough to try and balance out the current Xenomorph kit and the facehugger implementation idea. Usually when I see concepts, they just throw the current Xenomorph kit out, which is sad because I actually really like the way that behavior implemented the Xenomorph. However, when I've seen most concepts, it seems like they just kind of want to throw out the current kit almost in sort of like a revenge hatred kind of deal for what we got, which makes me sad. But I like Abyssal's because it forms the two concepts together and takes the best parts of both and makes them one nice happy family. Yeah, I think they did an awesome, excellent, amazing job. So if you want to see something more fully in depth that is actually all bets off, please go ahead and check out that video. I think realistically, if this does end up passing by somebody at behavior, I think realistically it's in your best interest to implement this, because there's a lot of Dead by Daylight players across social media that have been vocal that they feel the Xenomorph not having the life cycle aspects was a missed opportunity, and as a result, despite being Alien fans, they're not really interested in the character. I still see posts very semi-frequently of people saying that they think that the Alien chapter was overall a missed opportunity and a letdown. However, if you implement this, you'll take those fringe players who are disinterested in the chapter, make the chapter feel more faithful, and bring those players in. Yeah, let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of this Xenomorph concept? What improvements would you like to see to it, or do you think it's fine the way it is? Also, if you like today's video, make sure you like and subscribe, because that's how I know I'm doing a good job on the back end. Other than that, hopefully this video made your day a little bit better today. If it didn't, I'll try to make your day better in the next video. If I don't see you there, well, I'll see you when I see you, friend. Goodbye.